Dear music lovers, welcome to a very special and detailed episode of our musical journey. Today we open the doors to a world created by one of the greatest and most influential geniuses of Western music, Johann Sebastian Bach. His name is not only a milestone of the Baroque era, but a beacon for subsequent generations of composers and musicians. His works, from the most sublime church music to the most virtuosic instrumental music, testify to an incomparable mastery, a profound emotional palette, and an intellectual penetration of musical material that continues to inspire awe to this day. But who was this man whose work changed the musical landscape forever? Join us on an extensive, approximately 15-minute exploration of his complex life, his immense compositional output, his multifaceted family relationships, and the fascinating historical and cultural context in which his incomparable musical legacy was created. Our in-depth journey begins in the heart of Green Thuringia, in the traditional town of Eisenach, where Johann Sebastian Bach was born on March 31st, 1685. He came from a remarkably diverse and extremely musical family, a true dynasty of musicians who played a decisive role in shaping the sound of Thuringia and beyond for generations. From his earliest years, he was surrounded by music and naturally came into contact with a variety of instruments, from his father's violin to the organ in the local churches and the diverse musical styles of his time. However, his early years were also overshadowed by painful losses. When the young Johann Sebastian was just 9 years old, his beloved mother Elisabetha Lemmerhirt died, and only a year later, his father Johann Ambrosius, a respected town piper and musician, also passed away. Now an orphan, Johann Sebastian initially found a new home and musical guidance with his older brother, Johann Christoph Bach, who was organist in the nearby town of Ohrdruf. From him, he received his first thorough instruction in the demanding art of organ playing and the basic principles of musical composition. These formative early years, marked by both profound loss and an intense musical initiation, laid the unshakable foundation for his extraordinary musical development and his lifelong, passionate engagement with the art of sound. After completing his schooling, which took him to Ohrdruf and Lüneburg, among other places, where he gained valuable musical impressions and expanded his knowledge, Johann Sebastian Bach's professional career took him to various important musical centers in Thuringia and beyond. He initially worked as an organist in Arnstadt, where he already attracted attention with his virtuoso and often unconventional playing style, and also came into conflict with church authorities. He later took up a position in Mühlhausen, where he composed his first important sacred cantatas, which impressively demonstrated his growing talent as a composer. A particularly important and fruitful period in his early career was his time in Weimar, where he initially worked as a highly respected court organist and later as concertmaster at the ducal court. During his years in Weimar, from 1708 to 1717, he composed a considerable number of masterpieces, including some of his most famous organ works, such as the Passionate Toccata and Fugue in D minor, as well as numerous profound sacred cantatas, which impressively document his constantly evolving and increasingly mature compositional genius. Another deeply human and formative aspect of Johann Sebastian Bach's life was his complex and multifaceted family relationships. He was married twice and fathered a remarkable number of children, many of whom would go on to make significant musical contributions of their own. He married his second cousin, Maria Barbara Bach, in 1707. This union produced 7 children, some of whom developed exceptional musical talents. including his highly gifted and stylistically diverse sons, Wilhelm Friedemann Bach, who became known for his improvisational freedom, and Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, a central figure in the transition from the Baroque to the sensitive and classical periods. The unexpected and early death of Maria Barbara in Cöthen in 1720 hit Bach hard and plunged him into a serious personal crisis, leaving a painful and irreplaceable void in his life. However, just 1 year later, in 1721, Johann Sebastian Bach found a new companion and invaluable musical partner in Anna Magdalena Wilke, a talented and musically accomplished soprano. Anna Magdalena proved to be a loving and supportive wife and played an important, often underestimated role in her husband's life and immense musical oeuvre. This second, extremely fruitful union produced another 13 children, some of whom also showed remarkable musical talent, including Johann Christoph Friedrich Bach, who became known as the Bückeburger Bach, and the stylistically influential Johann Christian Bach, who gained international fame as the Mailänder, or later Londoner Bach, and exerted an important and formative influence on the young Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The extended Bach family was, in the truest sense of the word, a living musical microcosm, a household where music was played tirelessly, compositions were written, musical questions were discussed, and the next generation of musicians was trained. Anna Magdalena was not only a wife and mother, but also a tireless support for Bach, copying countless pieces of music, assisting him in his compositional work, and actively participating in the family's lively musical life. The lovingly designed Notenbuchlein für Anna Magdalena Bach, Little Books of Songs for Anna Magdalena Bach, are touching testimonies to this family's musical life and give us a unique and intimate insight into the musical preferences, educational approach, and harmonious coexistence of this extraordinary family of musicians. In 1723, Johann Sebastian Bach reached the undisputed peak of his professional career when he took up the prestigious and extremely demanding position of Thomas Cantor in the important trading city of Leipzig. This was to remain his last and longest position, and was to have a decisive influence on his compositional work over the following almost 3 decades. As Thomas Cantor, he was primarily responsible for the musical arrangements for services in Leipzig's 2 most important churches, the venerable St. Thomas Church and the imposing St. Nicholas Church, and he also taught music and Latin to the gifted pupils of the renowned St. Thomas School. These busy years in Leipzig were marked by an almost unbelievable output of compositions, especially in the field of sacred vocal music. Here, he composed his monumental and deeply moving cantata cycles for the entire church year, the poignant Passions according to Matthew and John, which are among the most sublime works of Christian music, the festive and radiant Christmas oratorio, and the unfinished but nevertheless infinitely beautiful and spiritually profound Credo from the Mass in B minor, masterpieces which are still regarded today as unrivaled highlights of Western musical history and whose theological and musical complexity never ceases to fascinate. However, Johann Sebastian Bach's compositional genius was by no means limited to the sphere of church music. His immense oeuvre encompasses an impressive and stylistically diverse range of musical genres. In addition to his countless sacred works, he composed important and innovative orchestral works, including the famous 6 Brandenburg concertos, which showcase a fascinating and virtuosic variety of solo instruments and are still admired today for their originality and musical richness, as well as the elegant and sonorous orchestral suites with their characteristic and often dance-like movements. his sophisticated chamber music, such as the solo sonatas and partitas for violin, which demonstrate an incredible mastery of polyphonic writing for a single melodic instrument, and the profound suites for solo cello, which revolutionized the tonal possibilities of this instrument, testify to his unparalleled mastery of instrumental sounds. His groundbreaking piano music, including the epoch-making, well-tempered clavier, with its preludes and fugues in all major and minor keys, a work of immense systematic significance and musical beauty, the virtuosic Goldberg variations, and the lively Italian concerto, testify to his innovative approach to keyboard instruments and his deep understanding of musical structure and expression. And of course, we must not forget his countless and often improvisational organ works, ranging from magnificent and virtuosic toccatas and fugues to moving and deeply felt chorale arrangements, which impressively demonstrate both his extraordinary virtuosity as an organist and his profound theological understanding and ability to interpret spiritual content musically. Johann Sebastian Bach's music is characterized by incomparable compositional mastery, a deep and often subtle emotional expressiveness, a complex and innovative harmonic language, and a perfect balance between formal rigor and expressive freedom. His fugues are unsurpassed masterpieces of counterpoint. His melodies are often simple, but all the more moving in their beauty, and his rhythmic vitality remains fascinating to this day. Despite his immense musical output and undeniable genius, Johann Sebastian Bach was by no means the celebrated superstar we see him as today during his lifetime. His often complex and demanding compositions did not always correspond to the changing musical tastes of his time, which were increasingly influenced by the lighter, gallant, and sensitive styles of his sons and other contemporary composers. Nevertheless, he enjoyed a high reputation as an outstanding organist, an accomplished and respected Kapellmeister, and a strict but respected music teacher. The last years of his busy and fulfilling life were marked by increasing health problems and a progressive deterioration of his eyesight. Johann Sebastian Bach eventually went blind shortly before his death. He died on July 28, 1750, in Leipzig. His death marked the end of an important musical era, but his immense and immortal musical legacy lived on, albeit initially in the shadow of the greater popularity of some of his sons. It was not until the 19th century, largely thanks to the dedicated and visionary efforts of musicians and scholars such as Felix Mendelssohn Bartholdy, that Bach's music experienced a brilliant rediscovery and gradually gained the universal recognition and deep admiration it had deserved from the beginning. Today, Johann Sebastian Bach is undisputedly regarded as one of the greatest and most influential composers of all time. His work inspires and moves musicians and music lovers across all boundaries and eras. His music is timeless, profound, and characterized by incomparable architectural beauty and poignant emotional depth. It reflects the entire spectrum of human existence, from deepest sorrow and melancholy to exuberant joy and triumphant power, from heartfelt devotion and spiritual contemplation to worldly splendor and virtuoso brilliance. Today, we have attempted to give you an even more comprehensive insight into the rich and multifaceted life and immeasurable oeuvre of Johann Sebastian Bach. His music is an inexhaustible source of inspiration, beauty, and the deepest human emotions, which can be rediscovered and experienced again and again. Listen to his immortal works, let yourself be touched by their profound humanity, and remember the extraordinary genius of this man whose sounds have stood the test of time and continue to captivate us to this day. Subscribe to our channel and give us a like for more in-depth videos.